Not every important Chargers move came with fireworks. While Mike McDaniel reshapes the offense right in front of everyone, Chris O'Leary is protecting the defensive foundation and working with pieces that could give this team a lot more than the market expected. One of them came to move across the whole front, raise the level of the players around him, and find that version of himself that used to make life miserable for quarterbacks. Add in the rivals' tightening cap situations, the youth versus experience battle on the edge, and the plan being built for Quentin Johnston. Today, the inside view shows where Los Angeles believes it may have found an advantage. Subscribe and follow this build up close. The first clue didn't show up on the field, it showed up in the books, and for a franchise that has spent years trying to turn talent into real stability, that might be just as valuable as any flashy signing. The Chargers are coming off back-to-back 11-win seasons under Jim Harbaugh and Joe Hortiz, but the pressure is still there because January still hasn't delivered the answer this fan base has been waiting for. The difference is that Los Angeles doesn't look like it sacrificed its future to build the roster it has right now. Hortiz took heat for moving carefully early in free agency, but the picture is starting to make sense. A competitive team, balanced books, and enough flexibility to keep important players. Across the division, Kansas City has expanded its commitment to Patrick Mahomes. His new deal is worth more than $500 million and keeps him tied to the Chiefs through 2033. The structure gives Kansas City some flexibility in the short term. The pressure grows later. Mahomes is currently projected to carry a cap hit of more than $90 million in 2027. Chris Jones also has massive numbers connected to his contract, while his production moves into a stage that deserves very close attention. That doesn't automatically tear down a dynasty. Kansas City has mastered the art of restructuring contracts, but it does leave less room for mistakes, makes it harder to retain stars, and puts even more pressure on the Chiefs to fill roster holes through the draft. Denver is dealing with a different clock. That defense remains dangerous, and the 2025 roster proved it could make a serious run. But the Broncos also have one of the oldest groups in the league. Maintaining that same level while veteran cornerstones begin moving out will require almost perfect replacements. That's where the Chargers' long-term strategy becomes so interesting. Justin Herbert is under contract through 2029 at a manageable price for a quarterback of his caliber. Derwin James has already received his extension. Tuli Tuipulotu II and Joe Alt represent the next major decisions, but Los Angeles has created enough flexibility to handle those conversations without tearing apart the rest of the roster. Cap projections can always change through cuts, bonuses, and restructures. Even so, the current outlook suggests the Chargers could enter 2027 with significantly more room to operate than their division rivals. The AFC West may not be won by one explosive performance in September. Los Angeles could be preparing to take it right now, one contract at a time, while Joe Hortiz leaves his opponents trapped under their own financial commitments. The Chargers' offensive changes grabbed attention immediately. Mike McDaniel received new pieces, changed the concepts, and gave everyone a reason to picture a transformation around Justin Herbert. Chris O'Leary chose a different path on defense, less demolition, more continuity. And inside that quieter environment, Dalvin Tomlinson has emerged as a possible hidden value signing. He didn't come to Los Angeles just to mentor a young position group. This is a veteran who has started all 142 games he has played across 9 NFL seasons, producing 20 sacks, 39 tackles for loss, and 70 quarterback hits. His durability alone jumps out. Tomlinson has missed only 7 games during his entire career, but the reason he chose the Chargers says even more about the plan behind the scenes. During OTAs, Tomlinson explained that he was drawn to the chance to be used the way he was in Minnesota and Cleveland, moving across different spots on the defensive line. That's the key. O'Leary doesn't want to park a 335-pound lineman in one spot and ask him to do nothing but eat space. The plan appears to involve moving him around the formation, mixing in some of the responsibilities he handled at Alabama, and using his power to open opportunities for the players around him. The numbers back that up. During 2 seasons in Minnesota, Tomlinson recorded 5.5 sacks and 38 run stops. Over 2 years in Cleveland, he produced 6 sacks and 30 quarterback hits. Those were stretches when his versatility showed up much more clearly. Los Angeles is betting that returning him to that kind of role can bring back some of the impact that faded during his 2025 season in Arizona. Nobody has to sell this as guaranteed stardom. The value comes from how the pieces fit together. Teair Tart remains a central part of the defensive front after receiving an early extension. Jamari Caldwell and Justin Aboigbe continue developing within the rotation. Rookie Nick Barrett now has an experienced veteran who can help speed up his adjustment. Tomlinson can line up next to those players, absorb blocks, create pressure from the interior, and make life easier for Khalil Mack, Tuli Tuipulotu II, and Akeem Messidor coming off the edge. This move also shows how the Chargers are approaching the defense after Jesse Minter's departure. Chris O'Leary isn't trying to wipe away the previous system just to prove his own authority. He knows the structure, He has already worked inside it. His priority appears to be preserving what worked while adding new possibilities. Thierry Tart has already shown that Los Angeles can pull serious value out of overlooked players. Tarheeb still became a starter after arriving as a late-round draft pick. If Tomlinson rediscovers his best form, this signing will stop looking like veteran depth and start showing up on lists of the best value additions made by contenders. The noise around him is still limited. His impact could become impossible to ignore once the season begins. Tomlinson came to Los Angeles hoping to reclaim a familiar role. Bud Dupree is facing the opposite challenge, proving that his role still belongs to him. There doesn't appear to be much uncertainty at the top of the Chargers' pass rush rotation. Khalil Mack remains the standard. Tuli Tuipulotu II has established himself as a player for both the present and the future. Akeem Mesidor arrived as a first-round pick who should receive responsibility quickly. Behind that trio, the Chargers face a competition that could force them to choose between experience, recent investment, and emerging production. Dupree brings 11 seasons of NFL experience and a physical presence that remains useful against the run. But his 2025 performance left behind warning signs that can't be ignored. He played 16 games but finished with only 2 sacks and 16 tackles. After Mack returned from injury in Week 7, Dupree participated in 31.7% of the defensive snaps. He didn't disappear from the rotation, but he also didn't produce enough to make his roster spot untouchable. Kyle Kennard is under pressure for a different reason. The Chargers spent a 4th-round pick on him in 2025, but injuries limited his rookie season to 5 games. Even when available, he played only 26% of the defensive snaps. Moving on from a 4th-round pick this quickly would mean admitting that his development hasn't gone according to plan. Keeping him only because of the original investment would be an equally dangerous way to build a roster. That's where N'Dame Tucker enters the picture. He wasn't drafted, but he has a connection that none of the other candidates possess. Tucker played under Chris O'Leary at Western Michigan and finished that season tied for the Division I lead with 14.5 sacks. He was also named the MAC Defensive Player of the Year. O'Leary knows his explosiveness. He watched his development firsthand, and he knows exactly how to use him. If Tucker turns that familiarity into production during training camp, the coaching staff will have a real decision to make. Dupree offers experience and reliability against the run. Kennard offers youth and the weight of a recent draft pick. Tucker could bring energy, a low-cost contract, and an immediate fit within the system. Nobody should keep a roster spot based only on respect for the past. Interestingly enough, leaving the Chargers might not end Dupree's career. A Jay Epinesa signing with the Eagles made an already limited edge rusher market even thinner. Teams like the Bears, Commanders, and Dolphins could begin looking for depth when injuries and disappointments inevitably show up during camp. A durable veteran who can stabilize and mentor a young position group will still carry value, even if he is no longer the disruptive pass rusher he once was. Now our community gets a seat at the decision table. If Tucker becomes impossible to ignore, would you keep Dupree for his experience or Kennard for his potential? Pick only one. Chris O'Leary may eventually have to make that same choice. From the defense's most unforgiving competition to the offense's most exciting experiment. Inside the Chargers facility, Mike McDaniel isn't simply giving Justin Herbert a new collection of plays. He is changing the clock of the entire operation. Herbert averaged 2.9 seconds to throw in 2025, a number influenced by the protection breakdowns that followed the losses of Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. McDaniel has been working to get certain throws out in 2.4 seconds or less. That requires different footwork, earlier reads, and the confidence to release the football before the receiver has completely finished his movement. The goal isn't to limit Herbert's arm. It's to stop every play from depending on him surviving in the pocket for too long. When the ball comes out earlier, the pass rush loses some of its power, and the receiver gets more room to run. That second part could finally put Quentin Johnston in the role that best fits his abilities. Plenty of people still see Johnston as a tall target who should live on contested catches down the sideline, almost like another version of Mike Williams. His career at TCU told a different story. During his final college season, Johnston surpassed 1,000 receiving yards and ranked among the nation's best in yards after the catch. His defining trait was the combination of size, acceleration, and the ability to get away from the first defender. He didn't need to catch the ball from a standstill and win only above the rim. He needed to receive it in motion. Early in his NFL career, injuries throughout the Chargers' receiving corps forced Johnston into responsibilities that didn't always show off that skill set. He has improved since then, but his usage has continued to fluctuate. McDaniel now appears ready to reverse that process. Identify the player's strengths first, then design the touches that let those strengths take over. The coordinator's resume helps explain the excitement. Deebo Samuel produced 937 yards after the catch in 2021, when McDaniel coordinated San Francisco's offense. Tyreek Hill recorded 689 in 2023 under McDaniel in Miami. Those players are different from Johnston, and promising identical numbers would be lazy. The connection is in the method, using formations, motion, and timing to deliver the football before the defense has a chance to close the space. That's why one conversation captured during practice attracted so much attention. McDaniel praised Johnston's drive phase, the initial burst that threatens a defender before the route breaks, and said he believes it can tear up the league. The technical detail behind that statement matters more than the strong language. McDaniel wanted to correct parts of Johnston's route without taking away the aggression that makes his acceleration so dangerous. That's the real inside story. Herbert is being trained to release the ball earlier. Johnston is being prepared to attack a defense before it gets organized. The offensive line is learning to move within the outside zone system, forcing linebackers and safeties to respect the running game. Every piece feeds the next one. Johnston's breakout isn't guaranteed. He still has to execute his routes, secure the football, and produce consistently. But for the first time, the system appears to be asking what he does best before deciding what it demands from him. And when talent and role finally stop fighting each other, the explosion usually arrives without warning. The whole picture points toward a franchise that has stopped confusing noise with progress. Joe Hortiz is protecting flexibility while division rivals pile up financial commitments. Chris O'Leary is betting on Dalvin Tomlinson's versatility and allowing competition to determine who truly deserves a spot in the pass rush rotation. Mike McDaniel is speeding up Herbert's clock and moving Quentin Johnston closer to the role that best unlocks his talent. None of this hands Los Angeles the AFC West in June. It definitely doesn't solve January in advance. But the contracts, the scheme, and the development plan are finally aligned. That's something the Chargers haven't always been able to sustain. Give me your full read in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe to Los Angeles Chargers News Today, and stay with us for the next move.